I just come back from making a gas run. Now, this is the high octane, the 91 octane non-alcohol. It seems to be getting easier to find. Because there was a time where it was really hard to find. Years ago, I used to have a little Fiat Spider. And that thing really wouldn't run on anything with premium. And it got to be there was only at one place that I could get the premium. But without premium, that thing just knocked and hammered. You know, it just didn't work. That was a high performance motor that needed that high octane. But for a while, that's all, you know, you were really stuck. Everything was a low octane, everything had ethanol in it. But it has gotten better. And now for quite a while, I've had to go like 50 miles one-way trip to get the high octane. But I noticed that one day, going through a town south of me, about 20 miles away, that they carry it now. So I made a trip down there and filled all my wavy and cans. Because I do like in the motorcycles or any small engine, you know, this thing isn't fussy. I can run regular. I don't run ethanol unless I'm really in a pinch, but I can run regular in it. It doesn't really matter. This thing would run on anything. But the motorcycles, and like the chainsaws, stuff like that, you really want to use that high octane. So this is $105.10 worth of gas. The high test is selling for $3.39 a gallon, which, you know, I can live with that until it gets up to like $5. I'm not going to complain. But one of the reasons too that I really want to keep more of this on hand, and I'm glad to find that I can get it that much closer, is that Volkswagen, though it's not technically a high-performance motor, that is an air-cooled motor that really should be run on a fairly good grade of gas. You know, so I'm thinking, yeah, I really want to run this in that. You know, so I want to keep it on hand. But like I said, the fact that you can now find it when it used to be really hard, because a lot of my motorcycles I've actually, you know, I've dropped the compression ratio down on them so that I can get by with cheaper gas, you know, with a lower octane. Though I still notice it even on mine that's got a fairly low compression now, the street bike. When it's warm, I still notice it if I'm running the regular gas in it, so I try to run the premium in that too. But it makes me think, you know, I was going to build another motor, and now that the premium is getting a little more accessible, I'd be tempted to go with a higher compression, because you get a lot more power out of high compression, but you know, you got to be able to find it. You know, there was a time on my screwing around bike, I was running like a 12-to-1 compression. And the only gas I could get that would run decent was I'd have to go to the airport and buy it directly from them. But I'm sure that's next to impossible to do now. You know, I don't think you'd even get on the airport. But if I could run the 91, I think I'd go at least like 10 or 11-to-1 compression. I think I could get by with a little higher. Because I think it's gonna stay that way, at least in this area. You know, I noticed you started to be able to get premium more in the, you know, years ago it started showing up more often in the lakes area because people wanted it for the outboard motors and stuff. But for any air-cooled motor, you know, like lawn mowers and stuff like that, it makes a world of difference on the life of the motor. So I'm glad to see it's available, and to be able to get it that close, that's nice. Well, it's 20 miles away, that's not real close, but it's still better than, you know, otherwise the nearest gas station is like 10 miles away and all they carry is the regular non-ethanol. And of course they have the ethanol, but I try to avoid that. So that's looking up in its own weird way. Oh, I was going to say something too about, you know, me filling up my cans. I had a laugh. I saw one day there was a video where, you know, people were they were waiting in line for gas and all this. Actually, the whole time I was at this gas station, I was the only one there. There was nobody even pulled in. We don't have a problem like that here. But on some of them places where they were having a problem, I remember seeing a video where a woman people were filling up things that were never designed to hold gas. And a woman was filling a plastic bag, like a regular little grocery bag. They filled that up with gas, and then she's carrying it to her trunk, gonna put it in the trunk of her car, you know. And then she, you know, which the whole thing is nuts, you know, to be doing something like that. People who are capable of doing something like that really need it to be weeded out. You know, you have to let this run its course. But she got partway to her trunk and they said, nope, not safe. And I'm thinking, okay, she comes to her, nope, puts a second bag over, double bag it. Then she's happy. And gingerly sets it in her trunk. How in the world is this gonna, you know, and I'm thinking, God, if I was behind her in line, I would be backing away. I remember once years ago, I pulled up to a gas station, and the guy was filling up, I think it was an old Cadillac. And he was a big fat guy. And he's, you know, they had the license plate folded down, and the gas cap was there. So he's down there, and he's pumping away, and it was a hot day, and there's this cloud of fumes, and this guy is smoking a cigar. And I'm looking at, and I have no idea how this didn't just blow up, but I backed away from that in a hurry, because I thought this is, you know, but you really got to use a little bit of common sense there. I mean, that's crazy. You know, they caution people not even to be on a cell phone when you're pumping gas, but everybody does it, you know. But smoking a cigar, right, and I could, you know, the cloud of fumes were just right there, you know. But that woman in her plastic bags full of gas, the odds of her going 10 feet without that spilling over, it's crazy. But people get crazy. But, you know, I mean, they're always fussy about approved containers and stuff. And like I said before, you know, a lot of times, like my green jerry cans, it's a little touch and go places. You know, they have to be red, you know. And some places will shut the pump off on you if it isn't a red approved can. Like these little small tower ones, they don't care. But even there, I think they wouldn't want to fill in like glass containers and stuff, and certainly not plastic bags. You know, that somebody didn't observe this and shut that pump off. You know, that's crazy. They aren't paying attention. But this was a good old gas station, you know, a Marathon that I have drove by there many times, but I had never pulled in. Well, back when I was a little kid, yeah, I pulled in back then. You know, we'd stop there because there's a little cafe and stuff there too. But it was nice to see a nice old-fashioned gas station. You know, everything now is gas station convenience store, and they're more concerned about the convenience store. The gas is your problem. You know, you have to pump it and all that, but it was great to see. I mean, they had a regular old little cafe in there, you know, with the booths and the counter, you know. It was cool. It's nice to see that somebody's still keeping that sort of thing going. And the funny part is, at one time they had a Cenex convenience store in town, and it actually shut down. And I would have thought that Cenex would have run this little one out of business, but it worked the other way, you know. So, you know, maybe like these cases where Walmarts are running all these mom and pop stores out of business, well, maybe sometime we'll turn around. You know, it'd be a nice thought. But I got gas now, and at least now I know where I can get it without having to drive so far. You know, 20 miles that I can do. Though it's a boring trip on all highway, and I hate driving this on pavement. Well, it's not too busy of a road, though this thing is you know, when you're going like 40, 45 miles an hour, if you got a lot of traffic, you're constantly getting past and stuff, and that's a nuisance. But I actually, today, there was a real strong south wind, and I am going against that wind, and this thing has got the aerodynamics of a barn door. And I got behind some trees, and all of a sudden, up to 50 miles an hour. Now, the thing is governed at 55, but I don't know that I've ever actually even went 50 with it before, because it's like going really fast with an old tractor. You know, 40 is a nice cruising speed. 50 was a little hectic. But like I say, I've never actually had it up to the point where the governor kicks in. Not on top speed. I've done it, you know, in low gears, pulling stuff and stuff. Then I've had it to the floor and the governor's kicking in, but not going down the highway. But it wasn't a bad trip, so at least I know I can get fuel without having to go into the big city. But I don't really like to drive on pavement, only that I know it's wears on the tires on this kind of a tire. You know, you get a hot day on dry pavement with these big lug tires, it kind of chews them up, you know, so I don't do a lot of pavement driving. You know, a couple miles here, a couple miles there, but I try to avoid it. You know, I'll purposely go out of my way to take some back roads to go someplace rather than chew up my tires. But there was no back roads, that was all straight pavement. But that job is done, and it's just great to know that I can get it locally, or more locally than I could before. But it does inspire me to jump that compression up on that motor. It has potential. So that's something that's going the right direction. But I think people had been clamoring for, you know, when ethanol first came out, my God, they really tried to shove it down your throat. But it's a killer on them small engines. It's not good for regular cars, and it's certainly tough on small engines. So they're brewing her up now without the ethanol. Because, like I say, I was working at a Harley shop back when they first started pushing this ethanol stuff, and we were getting all this shitty gas, and we were having, the valves were just tearing the guides up, you know, and sticking in the guides, and we ended up redoing a lot of motors for people, taking out the steel guides, putting in the cast iron guides, and new valves, you know, so, but man, we did a million of them. But it was the only way they could run on that, and even then, they still didn't like to run on it, but at least they didn't tear themselves apart. Because with that ethanol fuel, they were tearing themselves apart, just grinding that valve guides right out. But I'm thinking, maybe 11 to 1. 12 might be pushing it, but I think I can go 11 to 1 and get by with it. I don't remember exactly what I'm running in the, a street bike now, but it might be like 8 to 1. It's down there quite a little because I was trying to get away from that high compression. But I think I can go the other way now. I think I'm safe.